What if the best part of what you're expecting from life is waiting for you tomorrow and you're willing to quit today? If you knew the best thing that life can give you is right around the corner, why would you stop walking? Why would you stay stuck in that place?
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this.
No, thank you for having me.
This is so exciting to me. Even the concept of writing this book about joy and thinking about who are the people who've inspired me throughout my whole life, you've come up so many times.
Oh, you're too kind, Grace.
No, I'm not too kind, actually. I'm being really honest. I found myself at Jive Records early on when we first met.
Yes.
And it was an interesting thing for me because I'd come in kind of through a hip-hop community, so where they led the experience. And then to have an artist that you all were coming from another world into Jive.
Totally different world. Being dropped. I mean, if you look at our respective lives, we both were kind of dropped in the same place at the same time for different reasons.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And what I loved about it was it's a kind of business where you can conform very fast. And I kept feeling myself as such a young, was 21 at the time, feeling myself trying to find my place in authenticity. And so to have the experience with you, I mean, first of all, in the building, it was like, UGK was a big deal. And then meeting you, you came into our first meeting, I don't know if you remember, with just such a clarity of self and in such a big experience, but still very in your own embodiment. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, because, that was a big thing about Chad and I was that we knew that no one really understood us but us.
Right.
We were going in this very foreign environment,
Right.
into this entirely new element. And we were very eager beavers, to be honest. We really wanted a record deal, but we knew that it wasn't really. See, the beautiful thing about UGK is that as much personality and personal experience we put into it, it always represented something bigger than us. So us going into the record deal was not necessarily about us being personally benefited from it, because you sign the deal, you get the money and all of that. But we were still, and this was very adamant from Chad, we have to be careful not to compromise the personality of the environment that bred us, right?
Great.
So we are individuals and we're a group, but we're also the representatives of Port Arthur, right? The mentality, the people, the personality, the character, all of that. People's initial experience with where we come from is us.
Right.
So we got to take that very serious when we walk in the room, because when we come home, if any of that gets misrepresented, that becomes a problem. I literally just did a 50th anniversary thing, and they were like, well, Bun B from Houston. I was like, I'm not from Houston, I'm from Port Arthur. But let's just do Texas so that it's more inclusive. That way I'm more representative of everyone as a whole. But for 30 plus years, we've been pigeonholed with a city that we're not from as a group, right? I was born in Houston, but the group isn't from Houston. So from day one, it was always about, we go into these rooms and we got to keep in mind, they don't know where Port Arthur is. They don't know what Port Arthur's like, what the people represent. So we have to carry that into every room.
Yeah, and then taking that further, I even feel from the experience, you particularly, also being a odd kind of brown woman, knowing how much of yourself to give and when to conform and when to be. And you came in from Hello very different with Loaded Smoke. I mean, our first conversation, I think you quoted Shakespeare and Nietzsche and something else in this conversation.
Because I knew that there was a preconceived notion of who we were
Right.
based on the music. People didn't know us as people.
Right.
Their only perception of us was coming from the music. And the music was very primal, right? And we were still very young and hadn't understood a lot of communicative nuances in order to better tell the stories that we wanted people to know. But as from a personal aspect, when I walked in the room, I needed people to know that, yes, we're young black men, we're from the hood and all of that, but someone in here is well-read. Someone in here is educated, right? Someone in here is a very sound mind and knows who they are in this world. Chad was more of an introvert in the early years. As time went on, he became much more extroverted and very vocal. But any sentiment that I carried in the room was shared with him. It was absolutely how he felt. But for a while, he wasn't sure how to say it because he knew he could only say it one way. So in the way that I could come in the room and kind of translate these things into a business sense for people, he just didn't have that skill.
Right.
And if he was going to say it, he was going to say it the way he said it and how he felt. And so for years he didn't want to. He was like, if I say something, Bun B, you already know how I'm gonna say it. I don't want to fuck nothing up. And so he tried to hold back, and eventually him and Barry got into it, and he just let it all out. And once that character was let out of the bottle, you couldn't put it back in.
Oh yeah.
And that's when we really saw the progression from Chad to Pimp C, right? That level of confidence that walked in the room before he even got in the building, you know?
Yes, I mean, I'm gonna lean more into you, but I will just say, my first meeting at Jive, I'm there, I'm 21, I'm all new, I'm ready to take on anyone, I'm like, sure. And we were in the meeting and, we went through all the artists and then UGK came up and the whole room went silent, like, and I was like, I would like to work with them. And I got this look like, I don't know if you're gonna be able to do that.
We walked in with a certain look and a feel, but we wanted help.
Oh, 100%. And what's interesting is that, part of this experience and why I'm having these conversations is because we live in a world right now that is so much like pressure to be something that you're not. And so where did that come from? Where did you walk into a meeting in your heart's dream in another state with all these people that don't know you and still be able to hold this sense of self where did that come from? 10, 11? What was cultivated?
I'll be honest, in my high school years, I participated in a lot of different extracurricular activities. So I participated in what's called the academic decathlon, where you compete in these different academic competitions against other kids in the state. I competed in debate. I did drama. So, and none of those spaces were highly occupied by black people, right? So I had to learn how to communicate with people and how to make sure I was seen and heard in a very real way from probably about 15 and 16. Doing drama, obviously putting on another uniform, putting on a mask, so to speak, as an actor, all of these different things. So even if I walked in a room that I didn't have a high level of certainty about, I still knew how to walk in and carry myself and present myself, even if I had to bluff my way through it, right? But it was about not showing that fear that most of us walk into these rooms with. In the entertainment industry, if you show fear, they've got you. You're done. And that was the one thing I was like, you going in these rooms, these people are powerful. You don't really know as much as these people do. Just walk in with a strong sense of self if you can. And once I conquered that moment, I was like, okay, I can walk in any room now with this level of confidence, even if it's temporary, just for the moment, I can get through what I need to get through to get what I need to get done. And I understood that I was more prepared then than Chad was. So I put myself for it. I put myself in those positions. I wanted to try to have relationships with people in the building so that hopefully that could get us more of what we needed. So it was important to make friendships with people like you, with people like Jeff, and even with Sophia back then in those days. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be friends with people. I felt like we would get further with that. You know what I'm saying? And we did. And even when people went to other companies, you left, everybody left these companies, those relationships remained and those bonds remained with people. And those things mattered later in life as different people went through different things. And I went through different things. Those friendships were there to keep me lifted up. And I'm glad that I didn't walk in with reservation and I didn't walk in with hesitance, because I would have blocked myself off from 20, 30-year friendships like ours and theirs, you know?
But you do know that's advanced math, right? You do talk to people in the world now who are, 14 to 25 that are going to go into whatever entertainment field or whatever. They're going to build a business. They're entrepreneurs.
Right.
And I'm finding it harder for people to access that real sense of, I got this, or I can figure it out. And so did you have tools? Did you have a mentor? Did you see someone? Because I know some of your early, and your relationships, and from where I sit, this all came inside you. So was there inspiration? Did you see anything? Let's help some other people.
I just didn't want to be left behind.
Right.
I'll just be honest. I just didn't want to be left behind. I knew that I took a different path, right? And it was not the path that many people had taken. No one I knew in life had ever done anything or taken the chance to do anything like what I was doing. I really just stepped out on faith. I'll be very honest. I stepped out on faith. My normal support system, my mom and dad, they did not want to support me through this. The only person through a lot of that time that I had to even talk to about this stuff was Chad,
Right.
because the experience was shared with us, and vice versa. Because, quite frankly, no one else had ever experienced what we were experiencing. Like, record companies had a bidding war over our music,
remember.
and there. But even getting in the building, while that being a major accomplishment, there was still a lot of pushback because there was a lot of cultural distance. People didn't really understand what we were doing. They knew people liked what we were doing, but they couldn't put a finger on what it was.
It wasn't hip hop. It wasn't New York. It was, right.
No, but it was connecting with people. But no, honestly, I didn't have a real strong support system. Quite frankly, up until I got married, I didn't have any support. You know what I'm saying? Just, it was really me and Chad. And eventually Chad's mom came in to be supportive because, quite frankly, her son was going through so much, right? As any mother could do in the moment, she tried to give as much of herself over to it. And that protected him and myself for a while, but then eventually it got bigger than her and us as well as the music started to grow. But no, man, I went through a lot of it by myself. That's why I wanted partnership so bad. You know what I'm saying? Because all of this crazy stuff was going on in my life, and I had nobody to be happy with,
Right.
and I had nobody to be sad with either. So I was dealing with all of that stuff really alone in the moment. It's by the grace of God. Like, I look at my life and I look at, even when I made bad decisions, good things still came to me. And I never questioned it. I never knew why. Like, I do deal with survivor's guilt, but that's a different story. But I just try to embrace it in the moment. When these things happen, many people wanted to help me as well. People gave me different books. People gave me different movies and pointing me in different directions.
But
So I did.
you were the sponge to it.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It's always about being open,
That's it.
right? That's the thing. It's always about being open. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what to expect, but I was open to things, and I was willing to deal with the ramifications of getting it wrong if it helped me get closer to getting it right.
That's it. I mean, literally, that's what this whole conversation's about. Beginner's mind, curiosity, being open, not being afraid. I find that right now we are in the worst time for that. All those things are not really cool right now because we're in such an uncertain time. Things are so complicated. So it is so important for people to realize that we are an empire, right? And what we are is the same as you're creating a new business or creating a new opportunity or going to a new country. It takes that same dedication to yourself, that belief that you can do it, that openness to what's new, and what you said, faith.
Yes.
And also realizing that every place on the journey is part of the journey. And so if you're talking to someone right now who is feeling very, fuck all this, there's nothing in here for me, I'm not being seen, I'm not being felt. My kids talk to me all the time about how they're the first generation that are not out, performing their parents in all these different ways.
Yes.
They're not seeing inroads for themselves in the current structure. So what are some of the things you would tell someone who's not open to those things, not looking for a way to live in their curiosity?
What if the best part of what you're expecting from life is waiting for you tomorrow and you're willing to quit today? If you knew the best thing that life can give you is right around the corner, why would you stop walking? Why would you stay stuck in that place? There is no comfort without discomfort. You do not get
Please say that again for the people in the back.
There is no comfort without discomfort. You do not get to a comfort zone without finding out what's uncomfortable for you. It's very plain, you know what I'm saying? And again, I bring this information in hindsight, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That's the beauty of having conversations like this, is that I've been where some people are. I've been where some people don't even know they're headed. But I am also where you will end up, right? So yes, there's going to be hard times. Some of them are going to bring you your deepest, darkest moments, right? But there's no way for you to get to that sunrise that you're waiting for in life without going through the darkness. It just simply, these things are unavoidable, right? And many people try to live a life that helps them navigate going through uncomfortable moments in life. That's where the growth comes from. That's where the character.
That's the beginning.
Yes, and that's also where you have points of connectivity with other people. People don't bond with other people because they've gone through great things in their lives and they found each other both in this great place in their life. People bond with people because every one of us is a bit broken. Some of us a bit more. Some of us are hairline fractures. Some of us are clean breaks, right? But we find people that make us feel better about getting better, right? That was my whole thing. Like, I want to be a better person. It's going to take me a while to get there. Will I ever find somebody that's willing to walk with me? And if I do, what burden do I share of theirs as well? Because you don't get to anybody unbroken, and you don't get an unbroken person.
I have a good friend who is, when I started this book process, I'm a behind-the-scenes person. You know, why would I write a book? Why would I put myself
Yes.
out there? And then I started just going to people and saying, you should write this book. You know, you should create this opportunity. And, okay, I have to do it. And a friend of mine said, you know, that until you're stepped into a challenge, nothing begins. And she was saying that she's a black belt, and she thought that she was going to, you know, wax on, wax off, and then become this black belt, and then she's out there killing it in the world. And her teacher told her when the day she got the black belt, now your work begins, like from today. And I think that this concept of work has become a naughty word in our country. Like, people think, I want to make my body look better. They're going to brag, brag. Oh, I can't even sit in the toilet because, you know, Bun had me doing these squats and I'm in pain. But when things start to happen around our hearts, because I think our first heartbreak was pre-verbal, people run. They go the other way. And you said something that I love, survival's guilt. And I feel like a lot of these things are connected. Insecurity, imposter syndrome, survivor guilt, not finding a partner. My daughter told me this new thing, there's non-voluntarily celibate or something, like the newest demographic of under 25 men are these non-player characters, people that can't access any level of intimacy with another, so they just are completely
Well,
shut
intimacy
out.
with people right now is at an all-time low.
That's exactly.
That's the problem, is that before you meet someone and genuinely get to know them and it's always this presented person,
The representative.
right? And of course, on your first date, you try to put the best version of yourself in front of people. But with social media, which is this is the new club, this is where people meet each other and stuff. You're putting a version that really doesn't even exist, right? And so people meet people without really even knowing who that person is. So no one gets a genuine version of anyone. And by the time you get to that, you realize maybe that's not even what I want. I don't even know if people even really know how to deal with a genuine relationship right now. We're dealing with a generation who has been stunted in socializing, right? So they don't know how to connect with people, and they don't know how people are supposed to connect with them. And that's why so many new relationships are so short term, because people don't really know what they're supposed to expect from a relationship or with another person. And if these things don't fit the presentation model, right? If you won't look as good with me in my picture as I look in my picture, it's not gonna work. And so it's all of these other things that people are using as starting points for human connectivity that have nothing to do with the connection that humans make.
Well, can I start with saying, I don't know why I keep wanting to do this, but it feels very fun, so I'm going to keep doing that. The real issue I'm noticing, back to all these buzzwords, right, imposter syndrome, survival's guilt,
Yes.
is that nobody knows how to be in a relationship with themselves. I started that during the pandemic. Oh, people don't understand post Me Too and Time's Up. You know, the 40 years old and down is the first generation raised with two parents working, a phone, internet, and porn. So
Wow.
it's the first generation with all of those things. And so you have this broken generation of, I don't even know how to say hello to you. Should I look in your eyes? Can I say, you know, nobody even knows what to do. But I'm noticing that it's a step back. No one knows how to be in relationship with themselves. So they don't even know how to pick another person or what they're representing. And that a lot to me is tied to this fear, back to our heart again, of doing things that are beyond ourselves, right? Being in truth, being honest about how we feel, telling someone, I need you, I want to be in partnership. Those are really complicated things to admit to yourself, and then want to do the work on your own self to attract and magnify someone that you really want in your life, that really helps you and grows you. So that's a beginner's mind, that's curiosity, that's openness, that you were on a journey, and we had a conversation where you said, I know that for this next place in my life that I want to go, I would need a partner.
Yes.
And you took the steps, and you were pretty much, I think, the only male I've ever met in my life that on their own was like, I'm going to approach this like anything else that's serious to me. You had a conversation with me, I was so impressed, and you were saying, I want someone who's like this and this and this. I know that these are things in myself I have to work on. So you took it back to such a scary, vulnerable place where you want to be open enough with yourself to bring in a real partner. But no one's willing to do that. And I think imposter syndrome, survival guilt, all those things are about us not really taking the time to learn ourselves enough to feel confident that what we want, we deserve, what we're entitled to, and that we have permission to go after it.
But here's the thing. Here's what I realized as I got older. And I literally found myself with the individual I wanted to be that on that path. And I knew I wanted to be with this person, but I wasn't aware of what I needed to be for that person. I knew what I wanted from my partner. I had no idea what I was supposed to be for my partner.
Right.
And that was something that I had to find out the hard way, right? Like literally in the midst of all of this, realizing what real commitment was, right? I grew up in a very old-fashioned home where the man goes off to work, he comes home, he pays the bills, and that's pretty much it, right? I didn't understand what being a life mate I understood what being a dad was, right? Like I saw a dad, right, that came home, kissed the wife, paid the bills, played with the kids. I didn't understand what a husband needed to be, like the clear relationship between the man and the woman emotionally, right? And so I felt like, well, I got a great job, right? It makes good money, so I can provide for a woman. I can give her the life that she wants. I should be good to go, right? We should be good
We're
to
done.
go. And that was, as we just said earlier,
Yeah.
that was the beginning. That's entry-level position stuff. Yeah, like, okay, you could type 60 words a minute. That's
Right.
pretty much it.
Right.
And the deeper we got into the relationship, the more I realized this person was going to need of me, right? And that's when I started becoming insecure about maybe I'm not enough for this person, because I didn't really have a lot of relationship experience at that point. I had never been in any long-term relationship before I met Queenie. I had never lived with another person before I met Queenie. I had never shared a bathroom with a person of
the
the
big one.
opposite sex, right? So all of these different type of things, leaving the toilet seat up and leaving lights on, all of these little things that we had to learn about each other, and I had to be willing to learn about someone and make changes for. That's what became the hard part for me, because that was what I was so uneducated about. Outside of the normal, this is the bird and the bees conversation, my parents didn't talk to me about how to love someone. I had no idea how traumatic their relationship was in the time, right? Because all I saw was love from them. I didn't realize they weren't seeing love from each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You get older, you become more aware of those things, and that can start to taint the way you look at how you're supposed to have a relationship with me, So I was very lucky that a lot of the things that I went through in life didn't play out as badly as they could have. That being said, I am still a work in progress.
Yeah, we all are.
I am still a work in progress. But the beautiful thing is I'm with someone that refuses to accept a lesser version of me. So even when there's moments where I feel like, okay, Bun, you got it, you've hit it, you've mastered it, we're on autopilot. She's like, nope, take it off cruise control. I need you to put your foot on the gas and then put your foot on the brake and then move accordingly. Signal at these turns, because you can believe you have it all figured out. And then different things happen. I remember I've been hit with tragic events in my life where I had to really reshape and rebuild who I was as a person. She was there for me. She's been through tragic things in her life where we've had to help her rebuild up and be a better person. I understand now the give and take of humans, right? Period. The compassion that we have to have for each other,
The trust.
just in humanity, to be able to lean on someone and believe that person won't let you fall.
Yes. Well, you just said it. You just hit it on the nose, right? That you believe you're a work in progress. And that belief you're a work in progress suspends this ego, or I've got it, or I've have it in the bag and there's nothing else for me to do, which is false. There's nothing in nature that goes up that doesn't go down. There's nothing that could be a big event that's not then a small event, right? There's nothing that can happen that way.
Right.
And so just having that confidence that you can continue to grow is what I think a lot of people are afraid of. I did a workshop during the pandemic where I found that a lot of people who had created these big lives before the pandemic, like this person looks good on my arm, they're good in the picture, I can take them to this event. Now you're stuck in a house, you're staring at this person in real life, and who is this person? Because the truth of you is coming to the surface as you're figuring your own new life out in your little house arrest, I call it.
Yes.
So now you're looking at this person to be a person now who's inspiring or interesting even, or and I noticed that a lot of people didn't even know how to be in an intimate relationship that small with a person that they were married to, engaged to, living with. And I started doing these small workshops asked by friends, which I was laughing. I said, my mom, I was slut shamed as a kid. Now this is my job. Just kidding. But it was really interesting to see that people had lost this sense of, is it okay to touch someone? On the hand, is it okay to ask for something that seems intimate? And we started doing these groups, and I couldn't get them to get it. It took forever. And then finally I hit it. I said, oh, if you're having sex with someone and you want her to take care of you first, you're going to have a less good time than if you knock it out of the park that way, and then you're going to have a much better experience. And for some reason, that clicked to people, that idea of being in service to someone else. And I went to a silent retreat, and the teacher said the only way to be in a relationship with anyone is to understand that they are your teacher. It doesn't mean that they're always right, but it means that whatever the lesson is that you've attracted from that person, it is your teacher.
Absolutely.
And to have that level of reverence and respect for them. And I say that's with everything, with your own self, how you talk to yourself, the things you implant, the things you believe, with the person you're commuting with, a life partner, a career partner, a business partner. So how do you feel that you've taken this concept that you've built for yourself around the relationship with your life partner into everything else in your life?
So I just got to speak about COVID, right?
Yeah.
We bodied COVID. I just want to say, my wife and I almost used a bad choice of words. We beat COVID, we beat it to pieces. We enjoyed being separate from everyone in a moment, just so there was just us, right? We had designated spaces where Queenie could be Queenie, Bun could be Bun, and the Freemans could be the Freemans, right? Some days she needed more time to herself. It was just the type of mood she was in, like, I just don't need a lot of you today. That's fine, and maybe vice versa. But in the moments where we were enjoying things in life, we were very lucky to have a backyard.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like to literally have a backyard area to go outside and enjoy the weather and still hear the birds and still see the sun and all of these different things. And so many people were confined. Yeah. So our bond actually grew even stronger because there had been moments where it was us against our respective enemies or demons, or our collective enemies and demons. And so when it became just us against the world, we locked in. We locked in because you talked about trust earlier.
That's right.
The fact that she could trust me because I did all the outside stuff. I went to procure the groceries, any resources that the family need, and I'm masked up and I'm gloved up and I'm locked in, right? And I excel in those moments, right? I love being pushed to the human limits. I want to live up to that moment for my family. And I would come in and she would keep everything very sanitized in the house and all of this type of stuff, and we protected ourselves. And then we had a grandchild be born in a hospital during COVID, and both the parents became infected. So we brought the baby home for the first week, and I can only speak for me because it was a bit much for Queenie. It was a lot in the moment. I mean, we love our grandchild, but those 2 a.m. wake ups and 4 a.m. wake ups, it was a lot. But I mean, just being able to know that my voice imprinted on, because I don't get to see them as much as I like to, but when I do, when my voice, because I have a very loud, booming voice, when she hears it, she doesn't even know why she knows that voice. You know what I'm saying? I just love the fact that we were so properly prepared to support each other and then support our children and our grandchildren in that moment. That's why I say we excelled in COVID, because by this point in our relationship, we knew everything we needed to know about each other, and we were comfortable with that.
But you said something that really is the biggest gift, and also I think most people's problem, is that I'm assuming from what you said, what I'm hearing is that you have good communication. You have laid out the first kind of a law of intimacy, right? Communication.
Yes.
And feeling safe enough. And a lot of people, again, because I think that first heartbreak was pre-verbal, have decided that intimacy and true communication is confrontation. and it's going to lead to a disaster. And then to just get very basic, you're going to get ousted from your crew, you're going to die in the wild. But people are not saying what they feel to each other. This whole new gaslighting is me talking inside my head and not feeling safe enough to say to you outwardly. Clearly that's not a case, because if your children feel safe enough that you could take their newborn home, that your wife and you had gotten to a place where you had linked in to something, and even saying she needed more time or needed this, that's all a real trust of communication, that your heart and its truth is important enough and safe enough to be expressed with someone you love. And most people don't believe that they can do that.
Well, that's because people try to hold on to that first person they presented for so long. And people are so scared to show vulnerability and chinks in armor, because you present yourself as this fully confident, fully formed individual, right? I am everything I need to be for me. I can be everything you need me to be for you, which is complete bullshit, right? We're constantly evolving. Some of us don't know that our biggest heights are in front of us. Some of us don't realize our biggest lows are behind us. You know what I'm saying? So it's those insecurities that we walk into most situations with, right? The beauty is that we had been through enough good and bad to know that we could weather this, right? If all we have is us in this moment, because you have to keep in mind, and this is another thing about 25 and under too, I don't think there's ever been such a level of uncertainty about our collective futures in the history of the world.
That's right.
I think for many generations, up to my generation, there's a clear path to adulthood, family, employment, and future, everything, right? Even to the point of what will I be able to leave to the next generation? There is little to no certainty for many people, particularly young people.
Yes.
Because we've seen a world with crazy shit where we thought the world was gonna, Y2K, we thought everything was gonna go to shit,
I remember
right?
that.
And it didn't, it just was another day, right? And we've been through this world, it's been through plagues, and we've been through world wars, right? So when people see these small conflicts, they get very scared and very nervous. But those of us that have lived long enough to actually experience bad things, all right, know that good things are around the corner. This is just how life works.
That's right.
You don't get through life scot-free and scratchless, all right? So we know that it's, it's rough now. It may, even if it doesn't go back to what it was before ever, we'll be fine. We will be okay.
I think we're better than okay.
You know what I'm saying? The world has been way worse than no internet, bro. Like, if that's the worst thing we got to deal with, it's going to be weird. Might have to go back to phone books and maps and stuff like that, right? It's going to be weird, but it's easily navigated. It's easily navigated. And that was what we knew in the moment. We knew that whatever happened with she and we were going to protect each other. We had already been through that with the home invasion, right?
Right.
Which we didn't know about that kind of stuff happening
right.
during COVID
Right.
and all of that. And then in the middle of that, all of this social change, right? And social awareness comes through with George Floyd. And my wife was like, we've got to do something. We've got to help people. We've got to try to bring people together. And in the moment where the entire world said, separate, stay distant, do not connect, do not even touch people at all, we all literally stood together and marched for something greater than us. So even in these moments where you feel like everything is against you, you can still find something bigger than you, greater than you to cling to, and that makes life worth fighting for.
Absolutely. And that's really what this whole experience for me is about. It's that there's so many things on the outside that we need to address, right? Outer systemic change. But I don't believe that we can get there without true inner systemic change.
Yes.
Without really changing the things inside of us that make us all believe that your child is my child, that your future is my future, that we are leaning into something where, like you said a minute ago, it's not about such a macro. We have to get smaller, closer, bring our communities together, learn to have eye contact, tell you how I really feel safe enough to be vulnerable. Because I love what you were saying before about people coming up for a role but being the representative. It's when you built this business here, you weren't looking for a sushi chef.
Right.
Because that's the wrong skill set. And so if you're going, I find that people our age always say, oh, I hate the dating apps. But they don't hate apps because they get food from apps, they get cars from apps. They hate this concept because they don't know how to be in it, because we're approaching a heart experience with our brain. It's the wrong person doing the job.
You have no idea how you're supposed to interact with this person in this space.
That's right, or any person if you're yourself. right? Like, how do I love to, when I figured out when I was getting divorced the third time, we won't even get into all that, but I was sitting here like, oh, I'm on a Groundhog's Day. Like, how, I'm so smart and I love to support people and do great world. I'm proud of my kids, but how am I doing the same thing with love over and over? And it was because I hadn't done the work on myself. And I realized one day that I love my parents and there's a lot of amazing things about them, but there also were two teenagers that came through really complicated times, you know? And I got this awareness that if you're, let's say I'm your mom, and you're 3 days old and I'm nursing you, and we're looking at each other every time we nurse, and all the hormones are flying, we're in love, nothing could be better. You have the best life ever now at 3 days. On the fourth day, I get a call from Ansel, and it's bad news. So I look away for 1 second. In your 4 days of life, this is the worst thing that ever happened to you. Now it's the sixth day, I'm nursing you, you're playing with my elbow. I'm now bragging, right, to Janice. Oh, it's so cute when Bun nurses, he plays with my arm. But what you're actually doing is that's your first performative love action. That's the first time you realize, oh, if I got a boot camp life and learn how to walk and talk and certainty of my community so I get fed, then I also have to keep the love going so I can make sure this happens. And now you're on this people-pleasing highway. Right now you're like, oh, I know that if I take care of you, you'll love me. Okay, and you don't have anyone explaining that because this is a pre-verbal thought. And there's been a lot of science to kind of back this up, that kids have no analytical mind and everything you impress, even with racism. If kids see a range of people in their first days, they imprint that as, oh, all those people are safe people and they're in my world. If they're only seeing one kind of person, you see, so a lot of these things get formed so early, and now we're adults and we're not understanding, oh, I want to be loved, I want to have a partner, I want to be cherished, I want to have friends, but they're so afraid to have that first experience happen again that they're never going to be their real self.
It's amazing because during COVID, the grandchild that was born was the second child that my son and his wife had had. The first child was a little older, but he was like coming into his first year of life during COVID. So he was consciously separated from the world. So in his little world, the only people he knew that existed in the world was his mom, his dad, and her parents, his grandparents. He thought the entire world was 5 people. And then coming out of COVID, taking him grocery shopping for the first time.
At what age?
Under 2. Under 2. And having no idea, like getting in a car, driving down the street, seeing other children and houses and animals and all of these different things. And the kid was almost afraid. Like, what is this? Who are these other people? Had no idea the world was bigger than the home he lived in. You know what I'm saying? And I think there are adults that deal with that too. You know what I'm saying? You've been so scared. And so I can't believe I didn't put this together till now. So many people have been so scared and so afraid of change, right? Because they've only known the world that they've always lived in. And society now does not help you in socializing and interacting with people. Social media only makes it even more uncomfortable. And wow, I never thought about that you could be a grown person and still be dealing with the fact that I had no idea the world could get this big and overwhelming.
That's
for me.
right. I mean, literally all we're doing, everyone is trauma bonding, because until we go back to those first things and dissect it, we're always leaning into these people that are giving us that first big emotion, whether it was positive or not.
Trauma bonding.
Trauma is a way to all of us are doing that all the time, because until you do the inner work to change, you're only looking for the things that are familiar. And if it's familiar and it's horrible, I mean, think about taking us all the way back, but Penny and Good Times, right? That whole scenario, what I think they were really trying to explain to us is that you could be in a situation that's detrimental to your health, but if it's the one that also taught you love, you believe it's the best one. And until we start to look inside and say, actually, my relationships are not working. And I realized with every husband, I was never myself, because I had created this person who was going to take care of my parents and take care of other people. And that's how I got love. And as long as I kept my reality from not being a burden or a problem, I could keep this love going. And then all of a sudden I started doing work on myself, because your kids only do as you do, not as you say. And I was noticing my kids are amazing. My daughter's amazing. I love all my kids, my gift kids. But they were all approaching things, taking care of things in the world, but not opening their hearts and being vulnerable and not having, as you so wisely knew, a real partner in life to win this game with. And when I say win the game, I don't mean successing. I mean to have, at the end of your years, love, joy, community, things in your life that really matter.
It's so
it
amazing
all
to
starts
have
with
that, right?
communication, and that's truth. And that's what I find, especially I find people that this is not, the system of this country is not supported for them, or this is not their first home. There's such a great assimilation and code switching that has to happen at all times for you to keep moving forward.
But it's that first step, right? It's that
Yeah.
first step in transparency, right? With someone that you feel like, okay, I want to have an extended experience with you. I want to be with you longer and deeper and more consciously in the moment with you. So here's my hair, here's my hairline, right?
Exactly.
Like, you
Right.
know, like, and if we, and how do you feel about that? And then if we can get past that and then move slowly, people can start exposing more of who they really are and being more vulnerable and open to that. That's the quickest way to get where you're trying to go. But it's that first reveal,
That's first reveal.
right? It's that first moment of pure vulnerability where it's like, okay, I've been showing you the 100% version of me, right? Here's 75%. Here's a 75% version. Here's what it is. And it's there's more to come.
Yeah.
And then if you're lucky, when you take that hat off, the other person takes theirs off too.
I agree. I think it's not lucky. I think it's even more intentional than that. I think, and especially now in this complicated world, right? I was in a spa right before the pandemic, and you know everyone's naked in the spa, and this woman came over who was in our group, sweet lady, and she said, "I just want to tell you, I know a great doctor if you want to, mommy makeover." And I wasn't even insulted. I just said, "Actually, this is a mommy makeover," because this
This is the body that being a mommy made,
I'm
right?
really proud of it. I think it's super sexy. But I realized at that moment how hard it is for a younger person now to ever take their mask off, because we have social media. People can look a certain way forever. People are altering themselves. And I'm not even dissing any of these things. I'm just saying it's a harder barrier to entry, because if you have the belief that that first vulnerability might kill you or separate you from the people you want to be around,
Right.
I think that's how we get to these crazy things we're in the world right now. I'm taking my toy back. We're adults. I'm coming to your country. I'm taking back my toys because
Right.
we still have these very baby beliefs about protecting ourselves at all costs. But if we could start to, I say to all my adult friends, and it's Amir Questlove hates when I say this, but we have to get back to baby talk. It has to be like, Mike, message to you. Bun, I know I've never asked you for anything, and I'm scared to ask you, and I was. I love
Right.
you. I think you've altered my life in such a beautiful way in so many levels.
Thank you.
And it felt so frightening, but I'm committed to that. I'm committed to embarrassing myself. I'm committed to being wrong. I'm committed to people seeing all my stretch marks, gray hairs, scars. And the reason I'm committed to it is because I know that if we don't all get back to that hairline reveal in our truth in the first seconds of our interactions, we're not going to be able to progress into this utopian of a world where we actually are with each other heart to heart.
Right,
Where
purely.
we actually are open to being honest about an injustice to Pierre. We're never going to get there.
And we're all constantly, not to cut you off, but we're
No, it's
always evolving, right? So even when we feel like, excuse me, I gotta get right in this chair.
I knew this little
We're gonna be fine.
ad hoc situation.
Even when right, that you're evolving, you have to be willing to tell people, you know what, I really don't like going fishing, or I really don't like camping or something. Not saying that, Queenie, I love going fishing.
But I still want you to love me. Like,
Yes.
add that. I really don't like going to the football game, but I want you to still love me. Like, that's where we are.
We got to the point where, because I wanted to take Queenie everywhere I went. I wanted to, a big part of it was I'm experiencing new things, I'm going new places. I want someone to share these things with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would take Queenie everywhere I went, everywhere I go. And I remember I'd be like, hey, we're going to Dallas this weekend. She's like, I don't want to go.
No,
I just don't
no
wanna
screaming
go.
rhino for her.
It's just the whole idea of just going to another city, going to another hotel, another sound check. She was just like, I don't like it. She was just, it doesn't, and I didn't want her to not enjoy being that part of it. So I was like, well, what do we need to do? She was like, she invented the trail field trip. And so all of these different cities that we had gone to we've been going to Dallas for easily 30 years. She's like, you know what? Let's go to a museum in Dallas.
This is a great one.
Right? Let's go to whatever the thing to do in Louisville is, the Muhammad Ali Museum. Great. Let's go there. What's the thing to do in Macon, Georgia? Go see the James Brown statue. Cool. Let's go there. What's the thing to do in Ohio? Amish country. Changed our lives.
But you're back to communication.
Yes.
And you're back to, what I said, my weird analogy, the weird oral sex analogy. Like, you're committed to having the things you need, but also making sure that she's in extreme pleasure in that same ride with
It's
you.
a lot easier.
But that,
It's a lot easier for me to get what I
it's
need
easier
to get
for you,
done.
but you understand that for most people, this is very advanced math, especially male-leaning people.
Really?
This is This is very advanced math. What I don't think you must have also really amazing friends. I'm finding now this is the
Yeah, Anzel
there's all
right
these
there.
there's all these jokes in the world now, all these memes like, oh, men went extinct in 2010 and all these things.
Right.
Because all of a sudden what you have is I'm pro life partners, because I do believe that we all need a starting five. We all need the people that are going to have us win this game. We all need people that, even if you can't even get words out because you're crying and snotting up, they're going to take the time and hear you.
They already know.
Yeah,
They
you
already
need
know.
you need a little team. You need some people, and not just friends you have a party with. But that's a frightening thing for most people, to lean out to that level of need and that level of help. And so what I'm noticing is that now women, with the system of marriage, right? Like you said it, the man makes the money and the woman's life is taken care of. But that didn't always work out well. I have aunts who used to say stories to me like, oh, when they got married, they were told, let your husband get on and do their business. So this lying culture came up to support the business of marriage. Like, what do I have to say to keep this going? What do I have to, campaigning for the ring, that's a whole thing. And so taking all those structures down and having people be back in the truth of each other, no one knows how to do that. And when I come in with just start talking to each other like babies. Start really being honest. I'm afraid to tell you this thing. I think you're going to be upset. I'm scared to tell you, but I'm not going to be able to live with myself if I create this other dynamic and this assumption of words.
Right.
So this is a big issue, and I find it everywhere in people's careers and friendship groups, that people are so afraid to be uncurious, to not have a beginner's mind, to not know, that they don't ever want to share, and they talk inside their heads. They don't bring the information forth, and therefore the relationship could never thrive.
I think people consistently draw a physical connotation from the word intimacy.
Yeah.
That's been the problem.
Yes.
The most intimate moments my wife and I have had have nothing to do with physical contact.
Please speak on that one.
It's literally about us sitting across from each other. Maybe 2 months ago, I said something that I never said to anybody else out loud. And it broke me down, and I was in one of the worst places I'd ever been in my life. And I was so glad it happened with someone that I could tell that I trusted to tell that I trusted to not use against me, but would also help me get to where I needed to go through it. Well, if that's what you're really going through, Bun, then we need to do this because it's not going to work if you hold on to this. So like, I'm glad, I'm glad you're saying this, right? Because now I can kind of see something's been bothering you. I get it now, but we've got to get rid of it. Right? We know it exists. We know it's here now. We know what it represents. But we got to get it. We got to get rid of it. We got to get through it and past it, because you're going to be. If this is what you're holding on to, if this is what you're sitting with, we've got to go now. Like, we have to go now. And I didn't even realize how much of what I was going through had affected so many things. And it took like this tumultuous set of events to take place within a week's time, and then it all hit me. This is what I've been like secretly upset about. Like, this has been the undercurrent of this relationship this whole time. And now I know, and now we're better. I was able to talk to the person, say everything I needed to say, and put it in context, right? Because sometimes you could be walking down the street, right, and bump into someone. And for you, it's very innocuous. Oh, excuse me.
Sure.
But what if they're texting someone something and then they end up sending the wrong word to someone, and then that becomes a whole conversation that goes down a downward spiral? You have no idea what the littlest thing, how big of a change it could, ripple effect of these things, right? And it really made me realize, okay, well, that's why it's been this, and this, and that for me, because I never addressed this. And now it's like, now I'm like, okay, what else? Like, what do you see? Like, what else do I need to deal with, right? Like, I love the idea of being able to really get to the true essence of who I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
And I feel like success for me might have hindered that, right? Because being successful means that this version of me works, right? And so there's no need for me to want to change it because it's working until it doesn't work.
Sophomore syndrome.
right? Then it doesn't work. And now all of a sudden you wake up in the middle of this entire thing and like, this is not it. This thing's been broken this whole time. But because the checks come, the access comes, right? The perpetuation of who we want to be in this world continues, why should I even work on it if it's working? That's why you should work on it.
I agree. Even my parenting, I was working with a life coach recently, and she couldn't get some things through to me, and she said, the way you parent, why do you do that different than you do other things? I said, well, I had young parents, and we were all kind of figured out, so I didn't really have direction to do that, so I had to figure it out based on what I felt would work for me, other people in my life that are amazing, what I've seen work for them, that curiosity. So what you're saying of having that template made it even more difficult at times to lean into an open beginner's mind experience because you already had things feeding the character that you built. I would love if you would humor me with an exercise.
Okay.
A young person, and they want to take a step out in their life. They have this big dream of a life that they're going to be an entrepreneur, they're going to be in a life partnership, they're going to have this great life. What are the baby steps with real communication and real opening up to themselves what's your advice?
Well, you've got to talk to someone about these things that you feel has either been down that road or is actually currently going down that road.
Like an informational interview?
Absolutely, right? Like you've got to find someone. Look, everyone has that aunt or that uncle or that cousin that gets it a little bit more. Like I come from a very country.
I'm afraid to talk. I don't want to tell anyone anything. So I don't want to tell my aunt or uncle anything. Nothing. I'm afraid. They're going to laugh. They're going to think it's whack.
Write it down. Get it out of you.
So write it down.
Journal it. I would say journal it. Because you got to get the stuff out of you. I talk to artists all the time. And I said the beauty of our art is that it can be cathartic if we want it to be. I said, you can write a song about anything in this world. You don't have to release all of it. I said, so if you're going through something, this will help as a musician. Write a song about it. Say it, record it, get it out of you. Throw it out into the world. If you think it's for public consumption, if you think other people can learn something from it and relate to it, put it out. If not, destroy it, right?
I love that.
And never think of it again, right? Like this is what you don't like about yourself. You want to be a better person. If you think other people can be useful it can be useful to other people, and they'll share that message. Fine, put it out. Let yourself be vulnerable to the world and see what you get back. I'm almost certain you'll get people to build you up because they want to be built up in the moment. And if not, especially I had this conversation with friends recently, and I was like, look, you're going through a rough time. Write about it. You're a very deep thinker, right? Put these things to paper. Put it to paper. Because a lot of guys, like I write rhymes in my phone all the time, and a lot of these guys go out the head. Put it to paper.
That's right.
Right? Put it to paper. Make it a physical thing that you have to look at those words. Not just say them, but that you physically have to look at those things. And then go in and record it and get it out of your system and let that be the catharsis and cry in that booth if you need to, right? And then put it past you, right? If possible, put it past you and keep moving forward, right? Let that be the worst moment that you have with that. Leave that behind.
I love that. I have put a lot of tools in the book because I've been blessed to go, shadow Tony Robbins around or go to workshops and retreats, but that's a big luxury, and I really understand that. So
Everyone doesn't have that access.
Everyone doesn't have that access, or even that want. But what I tell people, just like your advice, even if you're not a musician, to take a piece of paper, and if you're having something that's really heavy, vomit it on the page. Everything you want to say that you didn't say, that you're scared to say, and burn it in a safe place. Burn it, destroy it, throw it away. Just get it out of your body.
Bury
and
it.
And then once you've done that, come back and feel that experience again, and then feel into the couple tiny things in there that you can bring to someone else, that you can share. So I love that advice,
Yes.
whether you're an artist or not.
Yeah, no, like I said, for an artist, I mean, the art is there for you, right?
Right.
So if it's a painting, paint it, get it out of your system. If it's words, if it's music, play it, right? Play your pain away,
Dance it away, do whatever.
Absolutely.
I think that's a big thing too, and it sounds like you don't identify them as tools per se, but you have a lot of processes, and that's the thing that people don't realize, that we're walking around in these little vehicles, and we have no instructions, and yet if we wanted to go to school or we wanted to go on a trip, even if we wanted to go visit another city, we'd have to research, prepare, organize, plan. But we have to do that for ourselves every single day
Absolutely.
as amateur adults.
Like Solange said, I tried to drink it away. I tried
Right.
to smoke it
Yes,
away.
exactly.
I tried to sex it away.
That's
You
right.
can't. You have
Yeah.
to deal with these things.
But you can tool it away. You can actually create practices that are, like you're saying, put your feelings on paper. Find one person to start your starting five that can
Right.
start to be the advisory board that you need to lean into. Find experiences. Work on the things. I tell everyone, I have a lot of women who come to me and say, oh, I'm terminally single, I don't know why. I said, great, write the entire long list of every single thing you want in a life partner, every single thing. And they're so happy. They're like, oh, he's this, he's that. Great, now go to the next page and write every single thing of yours that you need to work on to be that thing, to magnify it to you and actually attract
Yeah,
the right partner.
write yourself a letter,
That's
right?
right.
And date it 5 years from now. And tell yourself what you want from yourself.
Wait, okay, hold
And
on,
then-
hold on. Write yourself a letter.
Write yourself a letter, right? Date it 5 years from now.
Yes.
Telling yourself where you should be in 5 years, what you should be leaving behind, and what you should be learning in those next 5 years.
Including intimacy, including how you
Absolutely.
feel in your own work.
And then work on opening that letter in 5 years and being happy about it.
I love that's beautiful advice. That's beautiful advice. Your kids, your grandkids, your family, are there some kids that lean into you more? Do you find yourself being the advice person? Do they have a network? I know.
I gotta
this
get
is-
new chairs for Trillburger.
Yes,
Sorry.
we're gonna work on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Different children need different things
Mm-hmm.
from me, right? That's been the thing. My son has really he's grown into such a very confident young man, very assured of himself, just wants to be a good person in this world, but saw a lot of me being very locked in, like work. He's not a lazy man either, so he's a very, very hard worker. But it's important, for him to detox about this stuff and really wind down. So he and the kids, they do take the vacations with the family, and I think that's a really great thing. We didn't do as much of that as I wish we could have because my weekends were always work, right? It was always work. And even when we did do stuff, it was like the Super Bowl or,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
of these big extravagant kind of things. And I wish we would have done just more drive down to the beach and just kind of hang out and stuff like that. Luckily, my kids are not necessarily spoiled from that type of stuff because my wife is a very even-keeled person. Like when we didn't have a lot of money, Queenie was Queenie. When we did have a lot of money, Queenie was Queenie,
Yeah.
right? And those values never shifted based on anything. So we were really, really lucky that our children saw us in a loving home, right? Saw us work through things together. No, it wasn't a perfect home, but we worked through things and just be genuinely good people and fair people. And so for me, with these grandkids, I do have more free time around me. So like even with the George Floyd march in Houston, I brought my grandson with me. There's very easy for them to see the music stuff and the accolades and the plaques and all of that stuff. And we get access to concerts and stuff like that. But they also need to see, like I can show them, here's my community service award and here's this and that. But I want them to see me doing good things for people that I don't get paid for.
Yes.
Right? That's a big thing. Typically when we go somewhere and we do something, Papa's going to work, doing that. Papa's got to go to work, he's got to get his work and get money and stuff like that. But it's like, Papa, why do we come here? Because we need to be here. We need to be here. The bad things happen to him, and I don't want that type of stuff to happen to you, so that we have to fight now so that when you get old, the police don't try to come and hurt you.
Yeah.
And believe me, kids understand who the police are.
Oh, yeah.
And when the police come, that's something bad has happened. But you got to explain to kids sometimes bad things happen with the police that the people didn't do anything wrong. And
That's right.
kids don't understand why.
Right.
And
I love that.
it's a lot. It could be a lot. We're going through a very, very difficult time.
We are.
And the children are suffering more than anyone else.
They are. That's why I love that you said that you prioritize more vacation
Yes.
and time because, as I said before, kids do as you do, not as you say. And I feel like our generation, really promoted this work hard, work
Without
hard and play.
question.
And my daughter the other day said, no, the new motto is not work hard, play hard. The new motto is work less and live a life of play. And I think that being kinder to yourself, being sweeter to yourself, taking the time for feelings is kind of the beginning of what we were talking about earlier, even unraveling a world where you want it to look a certain way or you want to help someone else. If we don't have the time to be soft on ourselves.
But for me, it was always this, again, this notion of you're the man of the house, you're supposed to be working, right? I grew up with a generation of men that they didn't use lotion, right?
Yeah.
Like lotion was a luxury that men didn't need,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not worried about that. Like those generation of men were like, you're not supposed to be cute, right?
So who promoted Ash? Lotion companies promoted
Yeah,
Ash? When did that
I don't
happen?
know. It just was
Ash
like,
was
it was just, you'd be like, hey man, you need to put some lotion on. Hey, man, I'm working, man. I'm not worried about that right now. That
Right,
kind of a
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
you know? So, and I remember my wife was like, we're going on vacation. And I was like, I ain't got time to go on vacation. She was like, we're going on vacation.
Yes,
It literally it was like, it took a year and a half for me to take my honeymoon. Because I felt like I had to make all the money back for the wedding and all this type of stuff. And she was like, we're going on a honeymoon, we're going on vacation. And I was like, okay. And I'm still very, very uptight. Like if you watch my natural posture, my natural posture is this.
Yeah,
Like
shoulders
I'm
up.
so
Yeah.
just tightened up, ready for whatever kind of a thing. And she took me to Turks and Caicos, to the Gansevoort Hotel, and we laid on a day bed on the beach. And in 10 minutes, I was out, cold. I woke up like 3-4 hours later, and like I wasn't worried about my phone, I wasn't checking emails or anything, and I was like, this is vacation, and my life has been vacation like ever since.
Especially as a creative person, you need time to hear yourself.
But I need to enjoy the fruits of my labor. I can't keep bringing my job. I can't keep taking my family to work with me. I want my family to be with me all the time, but it can't always be work, right? I need to take them somewhere where they can enjoy themselves. This is funny. Last night, Queenie actually, Queenie did her first movie role. A friend of ours that owns a recording studio where we do our podcast at is shooting an independent film, and he asked Queenie to be one of the characters in the film. And we were there for probably about an hour, and this is the first time the roles had ever been reversed, right? Queenie's been on, ever since we've been together, Queenie's been at pretty much every video shoot, every award show, sound checks, all of this stuff. And so after the first hour, I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, I'm not doing. So I go to Queenie in between scenes. I say, is this the part where I go sit in the car and put my feet on the dashboard and go to sleep? She was like, no, you got about another 30 minutes before that. She said, because your shoots typically be about way longer than this. So she was like, I can't even go to sleep this early. She was like, you can't even go to sleep this early at a Bun B video shoot. So you'll be all right. And I was just, it was so fun to be able to support her in that. It was her first time. And she's been there for me for a lot of my career first. For sure. And I mean, and I know Ansel is laughing back there. You would not believe how great she did. And I told the director, I said, first of all, I said, let me commend you, because she would never do this shit for me. I say, and two, I gotta hide in every scene, because if she sees me, it's gonna take her out of what she tried to do. She had to put a gun up to my assistant manager, road manager. And the first time she did it, they all bust. Everybody just bust. She was like, you better not, she cussing and shit like, and everybody bust out laughing. It was so funny. And then the second take, they took it serious, and it was amazing. It was amazing. And then once they realized, hey man, Queenie is actually trying to do this, because it was all a big joke until she actually got there.
Right.
And then they saw she was actually trying to do it. So they started really like, you know what, let's give her the room to do this. Let's take it. She nailed it.
That's amazing.
She nailed it. And I was so happy to be her support system. She wanted some water. I went and got her some water and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's been my assistant for so many things in my life that were nerve-wracking and things I had a lot of fear and hesitance about. And she was always like, no, you can do it. You got it. I was so proud. I was really so proud to be able to be that for her in that moment, you know?
That's beautiful. That's partnership. I can't wait to read this book that you're writing now about partnership and intimacy.
I've been thinking about writing something, putting some words. I don't want it to be a book about me.
Yeah.
All right? I want it to be about things that I've been through that maybe people can learn from. But I don't want it to be like, I wrote my first rhyme in the 10th grade in homeroom. Like, I don't want it to be that. There's too many.
No, I'm talking about the things that really
Yes.
desperately needed right now.
Adult shit. Like, I want
Adult-
to talk about grown folk shit.
this topic, I mean, it's beautiful that you are insulated yourself in a community of people that are in love enough with themselves to continue working. But I'm finding that this is the biggest issue. You know, this lack of connection and people not figuring out how to access it, and joy being this elusive thing that people don't feel they have the right to even experience.
Well, social media doesn't make it any easier, Grace. That's the thing,
It
right?
does not. But it's a tool like everything else.
It's because it's counterintuitive to human connection.
But so are drugs. I want to
alcohol,
argue
right?
that there's all these things in the world that can be
Tried to
problematic.
drink it away. I tried to smoke
But
it away.
we
right?
also
You
can use them as tools for ourselves when we know how to wield them. Like
Yes.
there's not, when I go on social media, all I see is art and my friends, and there's a way to navigate our world, and I think it really begins with the permission to know that you can create the world that feels good to you, not that you think you need to have. Remember our grandparents used to say, what do you feel for? What are you feeling like?
Right.
Not what do you think? I remember my grandparents never used the T word. Everything was feeling.
And
And
there's
I-
nothing
we-
wrong with having a glass of wine and unwinding, right? And relaxing and enjoying and living in the moment, appreciating a sunset,
Mm-hmm.
right? A nice cool breeze in the evening, a nice walk on the beach.
Yeah.
That's a great place to have a glass of wine, right? But in a very dark space, trying to numb pain,
That's right.
trying to fill a void,
That's right.
that's the worst time to have a glass of wine.
But also, yes, 100%, all those things, social media, everything.
Yes.
What I'm saying is, there's all these wonderful things that we can experience, a glass of wine, a walk in the sunset, dancing, your grandchildren, but getting closer into your own personal truth and how you feel, to feel good enough to be Queenie, to be you, to support each other, to your highest dreams, to a full family, to guiding other humans, that really does require us getting so soft and kind inside our own selves. And that permission in the world right now is not there.
No.
That's the thing, the
Especially as a
permission for that.
black man, right?
Exactly.
Especially as a black man from an inner city in America, right? That's a non sequitur, right? It's a deal breaker off top.
That's right. So how do we address that? Like that needs to change
When
first.
when Pimp C died, I remember I called into the radio, and I cried.
I remember that.
I cried. I poured all my emotions out, and I did it consciously knowing and speaking to the fact that black men need to see this right now. I need people to see and know that it's okay. You're supposed to cry when you lose people you love. You ain't supposed to lose your homeboy and be tight. No, that's when you let that pain and let all that other shit that you've been holding in, get all of that shit out of you. This is the perfect time. You're justified in this moment. You're actually required in this moment to just release, because if you hold this in, then that means you're holding other things in. And when you release, it won't be controlled. It won't be at an opportune time, right? And it will not benefit you at all.
That's what we're dealing with in the world right now.
Literally,
Yeah,
that's
literally.
what's going on. People are dealing with emotions that they've kept in for quite too long, and they're coming out at the worst times, and in the worst places. That's why so many people are, snapping or venting, whatever you want to call it, in these rants on social media and YouTube. Look, it's all a facade, right? If I put up a picture of a cat, right? People, oh, I love cats, that's cute. If I put up a picture of sushi, oh my God, that looks good, I want to eat that. But then put up something that requires real personality behind it, right? Like I don't like what Bill Cosby did to women. Whoa, what you talking about? Bill Cosby's America's dad, right? Now you've got contention in the place that's always giving you admiration and co-signs you. Now that sends the wrong message. Now you don't even know, well, who are these people? Well, we tried to tell you these are not your friends. Your parents tried to tell you that. Now it becomes a competition to try to prove those people wrong. Now you're sending this extreme version of everything, just to try to prove wrong. And they'll send back those extreme comments as well to take you even more off your note. Now, you're so far removed from who you are and what the original intention of your interaction with people was in the first place. And now we're just down a rabbit hole trying to prove we're right.
There we go. That's where we're 2023. That's where we are in 2023. I love that. By the way, this has been such an incredible conversation.
No, it's been amazing.
I want
really
to. I mean, I have a million places to go with this, but I want to ask you one last thing before we wrap up.
Okay.
Which is, this is my first one, as you know. I'm so excited. I want to do it with you. I feel very honored.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked me. I'm honored to be the first guest.
Thank you. And the next one is Franklin Sermons, who's the curator of the PAM Museum in Miami. So this concept of paying it forward, connecting the dots, that there is a community of people in the world that are here to inspire people to live in their truth and feel delicious in their daily lives.
Yes.
I would love if you want to have a joy snack or advice or a thought or anything for Franklin. That would be amazing.
Wow. Obviously, you don't need any help in what you're doing. Obviously, it looks like you're doing very well for yourself. I would tell you to stay encouraged, and also to find the next Franklin. What you're doing is so unique, and you're almost kind of like a one of one right now. I'm sure you have contemporaries, but I'm sure you're also leading the pack. So I would definitely try to find the next Franklin, sow into them, right? Male, female, whatever identity, and sow into them, because as you go, so they go. And wouldn't it be amazing if you could find the right apprentice that could come along for the ride? I mean, you may already have that person, but there's also someone out there that is probably aspiring to be who you are, and they don't even know that you exist. And I didn't know that you existed, but that just made me my own cultural ignorance. But tell the world more about yourself, Franklin. I hope this podcast allows you to do that. Let this not be the first time you tell the world who you are and what you do and why it's important.
I love you. This is so fun.
I love this. This is going to be great for people because it's very unique in its intention of, just wanting people to just be able to find something that makes you happy and embrace it and hold on to it. And if you're very lucky, you can find someone to share that joy with.
Yes.
But my wife and I, we talk about it all the time. Like, you can't. She's like, we can go all over the world, right? You can go anywhere you want to go in the world. Yeah, cool. But if you're not happy here, you're not promised to be happy there.
That's right. If you're not happy inside here, there's nothing that's gonna.
Yeah, it's like you can't go somewhere and expect what you're looking for to be there. You kind of got to bring it with you. My pastor gave me that advice too. He was like, you deal in a space where God is not always in the room, so you're probably gonna have to bring him with you most places you go.
I mean, that's it right there. That's the biggest joy tool. Bringing
Yes.
your faith with you and having it be your partner and everything you walk into.
So you're never uncomfortable,
That's
right?
right.
Your faith should make other people uncomfortable.
Right. Well, I read this Maya Angelou quote when I was first like, oh, I'm going to do a podcast. That's crazy. And she said that every time she steps on any stage, she says to all her ancestors, all right, we're all getting on the stage. And now every time I start any conversation, I'm like, all right, any questions you have, any thoughts, that's all. Use me as a vessel. I'm here to do whatever, we all need. And
love
what
that.
a blessing.
I love that. That's a great approach. I always tell people I walk in the room like my mom's watching.
Yeah.
But I like that. I like the fact of everywhere we go in, everyone we go into, we carry our ancestors with us.
Yeah.
That's even deeper.
She talks about it a lot online. I'm obsessed with her, obviously. And so, yeah, she's just amazing.
Grace,
Long
thank
keeps
you
going.
so much.
Thank
I wish you the
you.
best. I wish you so much
so
with the
good.
JOYCAST. Thank you so much for having me.